I'm Ella. I'm a high school junior at Menlo School. Some of my pieces are a little bit more like cinematic in a way. Like it feels a little bit like a movie scene or like a snapshot out of like a show you might watch. One of my recent favorite movies is Everything Everywhere All at Once. Something about like the cinematography, the way it looks and the way everything is framed. But also, I think part of it is also just the story really speaks to me. Like when someone says art, I think my mind just goes to visual art and like painting and illustration because that's kind of what I focus on the most. I really enjoy like all forms of art though. In my past, I've kind of tried out a lot of them too. Music, singing, dancing, like even like acting. I think they're all like really special even if I'm more like interested in illustration. I played soccer for a really long time. Sports is also like kind of a really important part of my life because I've been doing it for so long. It was in like 7th grade maybe. I kind of got a little bit influenced by people like online because I was really into like looking for inspiration through like social media and like trying to like get better through that. So I like saw these people making like really nice pieces like on their iPads and I really wanted to try it for myself. I thought it would just like work well with what I wanted to do. So I finally like tried it and like at first I think the learning curve is pretty hard. Usually you have like a pencil on paper and you can like feel the difference. But after you kind of get the hang of it, it like opens up a lot of different possibilities. The interface is pretty easy to like understand, so I think that kind of helped in my journey a little bit. From my experience, I think a lot of people expect high schoolers that are interested in art to go to like only art-focused schools. And I think I'm like very interested in like going to a school with art but also like has strong academics, so you can kind of mix the two. Honestly, it can be a little stressful like when it's not turning out the way I want it to, but I think like overall, like drawing just kind of like, even if I'm tired, like no matter how I'm feeling, it always just kind of makes me feel better. I'm just drawn to making art and creating things.
I'm a painter by night. By day, I'm a grad student at Stanford Law School. More recently, I started painting myself. It was a full-figure oil painting. This was the first time I really painted myself. It's called Gloriosa Superba. That piece has kind of opened up my work to the world in a sense. A lot of opportunities have come about through that piece. So it's been exciting just to see how being a little brave with my work and kind of trying something new paid off so much in the end. I'm interested in the subjectivities of African women and just our personal experiences. I try to represent those on the canvas as much as I can. I also represent Zimbabwe quite heavily in connection with the narratives of Zimbabwean women and their stories, particularly political figures, women that are involved in the political history but may have been excluded from that narrative, that national narrative, usually because of misogyny or violence or patriarchy, which are features of the place I come from. Sometimes I will have collage pieces drawing from newspaper articles or online news articles that I've seen, imagery, text, and I kind of put that in the background. I think what that does for the viewers, it requires them to kind of step forward quite literally to really look at those details, but it also invites them into, these issues that I care about through the motif of the flame lily, which features in my work quite a bit. That's how I kind of try to represent Zimbabwean women as beautiful, complicated, but kind of underappreciated and have a complex history. So a lot going on in the pieces, but that's what I hope people kind of take away when they look at them, and I hope it sparks some interesting dialogues.
Art is something that's very important to me. I think it began with my uncle, and my uncle was, I would say, a frustrated artist who really had aspirations, and fortunately he transferred those to me. And one day he brought home a set of oil painting materials, and that's what really captivated me about painting. He was somebody that was really looking out for me and opened my eyes to beauty. And beauty is very important to me because it's something that throughout all of my life If I ever encountered a situation that was a bit trying or challenging or a struggle, the way he guided me helped me to see beauty first and always, and that was sort of my compass to navigate to the point where I'm at today. In the very beginning, I was painting the surface. How do things look? How do we move? What happens when there's emotion on the face? As I got older, I started painting below that. I mean, what causes those emotions? What are the circumstances? How do we deal with it? Those things are really interesting to me. The paintings that you'll see, one is of my grandfather and his brothers sitting on a porch in rural Louisiana. And I don't know what they were thinking about, but in my mind, they were thinking about coming to California. That was my interpretation of it. And it was all about hope. It was all about determination. It was all about only seeing one thing. And that's maybe where I connect to beauty. Beauty to them was a better life.
So I'm working in two different mediums. One I call multi-layered, and that refers to both the content and the material. And the material is layered wood that is intricately cut and then laminated together. And then the concepts are usually stories that I'm trying to tell that have stories of themselves. So stories within stories, or they're multifaceted or multi-layered. My metal pieces are all made from found objects. I walk around the city, I pick up lots of parts. My friends laugh at me all the time because I'm constantly like bending down and picking up random screws and bolts and all sorts of weird items throughout the city. And then I take them home, I clean them up, and then I assemble them into sculptures that resemble cities. Some of my work kind of tells a story of who I am. I wanted to create a piece about identity, and I was thinking about how the people in my life impact who I am as a person. So my son and I were walking around and talking about this, and some ideas were floating around in my head, and we look up and we see a mural. It kind of made me start to think about a fingerprint. So I kind of married the two concepts together and came up with this really cool technique where the lines of the fingerprint, the width change of those lines to depict a person. And so it kind of is an optical illusion of sorts. There's no shading, but it's line thicknesses that kind of define the piece. I usually think about layers in terms of color. So I have the red layer at the top and the purple layer at the bottom, and it's kind of, my work tends to be colors of the rainbow. I'm constantly creating lots of different digital objects in my art and color coding them. Once I get something that I like, there's this lengthy process of merging all of those different digital objects down into the actual layers that I want to cut. Often when I'm building pieces, I try to optimize the material that I'm using by fitting other shapes inside of my design, so that when I'm done, I end up with the layer that I'm trying to cut, plus a whole bunch of other parts that I can use for other projects. I really love spending time at the yard and watching people come in and experience my art for the first time, seeing them wowed by my art, and that's kind of the ultimate compliment and honest feedback, is kind of overhearing people talk about your art when they don't know that you're listening.
You know, I say this, I hate to paint. At one time, I might have started in painting, and then I ended up in sculpture because I like 3 dimensions. And then when I went to Mexico, I think I went from sculpture to photo journalism to painting. Where I am now, there's started to be this duality in me about, am I a craftsperson or am I an artist? Am I making serious museum quality work or am I just playing? And I think it's probably that back and forth that is subtly in the figures I'm doing. And I'm actually working on a portrait right now that's very personal. It's my brother, and he died a year ago in March of brain cancer. And so I'm doing a portrait of him, and when I think about the first phase of the portrait, it's the way he was when he was first diagnosed. And then the second portrait will be more of him at the end. I think my work tells a story, but I also think my work is about characters. Here are the characters, and you decide the story. I always say that making art makes me happy. And while, fame or fortune or whatever, I guess is out there for me, who knows? It's what I get from it. I really do it for me. The fact that it's admired or well-liked or well-accepted is great. Probably the reason why I take time is because I'm enjoying it. I mean, there's nothing better than coming here and doing what I want to do, doing the work I want to do. So it makes me happy.
As an architect, from beginning to end, you're really helping someone bring forth their vision and figuring out all the little details. So I think that creative process translates over into my art. I really liked this theme of metamorphosis. It can go in so many different ways, but I have in particular one piece that's going in that it almost looks like a direct translation of that theme, where you see something on the left that is of a certain colorway and then something on the right that's different, and then in between it are just strands where you can see how it's made the transition from one to another. I think the beginning of my process looks very quiet. I'm really maybe staring off into space and thinking about how some images or textures might go together, or sometimes it's me sketching in my sketchbook different shapes or ideas. And then when I kind of land on something, I'll start to go on my computer and take some of those images and maybe add some color gradients to them. And I'll also start working on developing a weave pattern that I want to use. I happen to use an Excel spreadsheet for making my patterns, filling in the little squares. I can take that pattern and I kind of overlay it onto whatever imagery I'm using and kind of test how things will come through. I'll play and experiment with that. And once I've landed on those things, then I'll usually send the images out to have printed large scale. And then when I get those back, the fun part happens, which is, taking the perfectly good piece of paper and slicing it up and then weaving it together. Really, that part is the most magical for me because you get to see it appear line by line. In a lot of my work, I like that you can think of it as something that tells a story and something that you can see that evolves over time.
I wanted to be an artist for a long time. I grew up outside of Washington, D.C., and my mom was a curator at the Smithsonian. The most undivided time I could get with my mom was when I agreed to go to museums with her. And I thought about my favorite museum, which was Museum of Natural History, and the big murals that they had on the wall of all the different cultures that saw beauty in a different way. I was born in Micronesia. The summer before, I was lucky enough to go back again and teach art to a local elementary school. When I teach art, it's really fun to be able to just pull out the new thing that gets them excited. It was a great experience and I learned a lot, and I'm really glad I went back there. Being a part of this show is that metamorphosis. I've worked and done that topic several times before in my career. So putting together the 5 pieces was easy. One of the ones that they chose, of course, was about metamorphosis too. This one has to do with like a waiting period. That'll be on exhibit. I think there's a lot of repeating images in my art that I don't intentionally put there. They kind of just show up. And so I've assigned meaning to them afterwards. Like one is oftentimes they'll always be wearing one sock and not another. And I've assigned that means that they're just kind of halfway in. They're not putting their all into it. Or like mushrooms often show up, and I think they mean that either you're clueless or things are taking so long that mushrooms are growing. I have a bunch of those similar type of things like that show up. Looking at art is a way to take a scenic tour and stop and think about what someone's trying to communicate.
When it comes to art, it's not necessarily like competition. I do it more for myself. I would say paint whatever's on your mind. Don't be afraid to take the risk, or nobody's judging, because art is for everyone and we all appreciate different things in art. A lot of the art pieces I make are about me. My most recent one, it's called One Last Breath. The message in the painting is about climate change, the wildfires, the sea levels rising, and in the middle I have a woman, so she's Mother Earth and she's saving the last of our life. Ideas start coming to me very, very randomly, like when I'm swimming or when I'm about to fall asleep. I would think about something and then I would have to get up and pick up my little notebook and write it down before I forget. I guess the thinking process is actually the hardest part. And then the painting is so fun, so easy, and then I just paint away. Ever since I started, I love vibrant colors and I love painting big stuff. Before, I loved like copying things, doing still life, but now that I've started creating my own art pieces, like I've really fell in love with that and using that to send messages to the world. I always try to mix opposites, like put a bad situation in, but then also bring hope into the artwork. Painting about it makes me feel powerful.
I always said I'm an artist first and an art teacher second. And it was because of that strong feeling about the arts. I didn't want to just talk about it, I wanted to do it, which is kind of a little theme with me. I always have to do what I'm talking about. So I walk the walk with my plants, I walk the walk with the dirt, and the art came from that. This series is called Dirt, Plant, Sky, and I'm a researcher. So I don't know that my art is research-based, but it's definitely research-supported. But it's also trying to understand new ways of connecting with nature. Okay, one of my favorite stats. We see in America or in the US 4,000 to 10,000 ads a day. And that's 4,000 to 10,000 ads telling you you're not okay unless you buy something. That's a huge influence. So then if we want to go out and change our attitude towards nature and change what we do for mental health of our children, wow, that's really something to buck, to that kind of influence. I love that time where I'm having a conversation with the universe. It's just me and the universe, and painting about things that I've discovered. And it's not all easy. Sometimes you struggle to get it the way you want it to be, but it's good even when you struggle. I love the idea that you start with a blank canvas and then you create a world on that canvas. And whether it's abstracted or whether it's, representational, doesn't matter. You're building a world on that canvas. So I think sometimes that seems magical to me.
I grew up with a lot of art because my mom's a painter. I can't remember a time where there wasn't paintings in the house. I feel like my style is pretty similar to hers, especially when she painted my grandpa. I think that really inspired me. The moment I see a color scheme that catches my eye, like it could be totally dark and then you just have a pop of color, I'm just like, oh cool, like why did you do that pop of color? When you paint, you could make the colors brighter, and that kind of shows how the artist is looking at the world. My colors are pretty bright, so I like to think that, oh, it's because I'm looking at the world with a young perspective, so it's like everything seems so happy and youthful. My favorite piece is a painting of me and my grandparents. It's called Beans on a Saturday, and my mom took it while we were in the Netherlands because that's where my grandparents live. And so my grandpa has a huge garden, like he grows broccoli, beans, potatoes, like all types of vegetables. I love their beans, like it's so good. Like I could eat a whole pot. I did eat a whole pot. Like it's one of my favorite pieces because it was fun when I'm just cleaning the beans with them, because I don't really see them a lot since I live here and they live there. So it's just a fun experience. I love to travel. I feel like that's kind of also impacted my art because 2 out of the 3 pieces that I've done for this exhibit are taken in Europe. Most of my other paintings are also taken in Europe. A lot of my works focus on me and other people. So the metamorphosis, it's like how I've changed as a person and how my bonds with other people have changed as well. I've changed a lot from kindergarten, I'd like to think. I still have really good friends from like 5th grade and from middle school on to now. Basically all of my pieces are with them. And especially with my grandparents, my bond has changed with them a lot too. And art's become more fun for me. Like it's just a time where I can just relax and think. And normally when I paint, I just put a movie on in the background that I've seen 1,000 times. It's just playing and I'm just like painting, and it's just really relaxing.
I started doing a lot of portraits when I took AP Art last year because of the sustained investigation, and I based it around my friends. So all of my pieces had to have people in it, so I ended up doing a lot of practice for that. If I'm doing a portrait, I'll find like a reference photo or maybe an image online that I won't follow completely, but it's like a good guide point. And then I'll have the image up on a screen with a grid on the screen. And then I put the same grid on the canvas that I'm using, and usually I do it inches by inches. The painting I did called Alina, I think fits into the theme metamorphosis because it's about her identity that has like 2 sides to it, where she's in a stance that's very like stern and she looks a bit intimidating, but in the background it's like her childhood home. So you can tell that she's not like that all the time. Sometimes if I'm watching a movie and I like the scene, then I'll try to find a lot of images of that movie online, or I'll just take that scene and I'll put it over on Procreate, and then I'll use that as a reference to paint. And with ceramics, I draw a lot of inspiration from people I see online doing ceramics. Oil painting is a little bit more stressful than ceramics because it takes a lot longer, because with ceramics, if I'm throwing on the wheel, it only takes me a day to get the piece off the wheel. I think that because I'm so new to ceramics, I put less pressure on myself. I think I get a different feeling from whatever medium I'm using, because being able to use and wear what I make in ceramics and what I'm sewing makes me feel very proud.